that?
What does it look like? Police tape.
Why is it 8 inches off the floor?
Because my arms are too short to... I'm the one asking questions here.
The detective trope is something extremely common among animated cartoons. Fairly Odd Parents did it, SpongeBob did it, Counterfeit Cat did it, Regular Show, the Looney Tunes, a bunch of them. They all seem to follow a very similar structure. It's a tried and true method that leads to a lot of opportunities for jokes and different character interactions. However, one show took this idea and did something quite different from the others, making this one of my favorite uses of the detective trope. I'm Papercut, and let's talk about the detective from the Amazing World of Gumball as we go on the road to review 25. The episode wastes no time in getting into the plot. Everything about the first 20 seconds or so works really well. The way the Celeste music in the background tricks you into thinking the episode will be in a cute setting, only for it to go eerily more off-pitch, as Anais' dialogue gets more and more dark and disturbing. Well, dark and disturbing for Gumball standards at least.
Mommy's at work, Daddy's asleep on the sofa. It's in these completely normal moments that horror chooses to strike. The floor was covered in Daisy's stuffing, and she was missing.
This episode is set mostly within the Elmo residence, mainly in the bedroom, the bathroom, and the shed. It feels very different from other Gumball episodes. Watching it back, it feels kinda off in some way. Not necessarily in a bad way, it just feels weird going from any other normal Gumball episode to this one. So, as you've seen, the episode is going to revolve around Anais looking for Daisy in the style of a detective episode. It's important to note that with episodes like this, it's important that it never takes itself too seriously, especially for a Gumball episode. One of the many problems the latter seasons faced, in my opinion, was exactly that. The writers tried to make the show more meta and clever, while completely forgetting about the comedic aspects that made the show work, and this episode could have easily succumbed to that pitfall. What you'll see throughout this episode is that they take the concept but tell it in a Gumball way, with wacky or absurdist humor, and a general sense of self-awareness, along with great visuals. I love the scenes of Anais interacting with Richard. They pop up a lot in this episode. We don't get to see a lot of them throughout the series, and it's always cool when we do.
Another small-town yokel who wasn't enough of a man to prevent his son's...
Hey!
What? Did I say that out loud? Sorry, it was meant to be internal monologue.
Going back to my point from a while ago, they take the concept and stretch it to its limits. It works well because instead of just putting it in the episode because it works with the concept, they use it for comedic purposes throughout the episode. They offer little bits of laughter throughout the episode so that it doesn't get boring or too serious. In fact, at times the humor surprises you and catches you off guard. It works because when you get so used to the whole serious tone of the episode, humor like this really hits harder. Fairly Odd Parents. Take notes. So Anais goes further into this investigation and comes closer and closer to figuring out exactly what happened to Daisy. I'm not going to spoil too much of the middle part of the episode for you, but do know that some seeds are planted very early on as to who exactly did it. Although I'm assuming since you're watching this video, you've already seen the episode. The scenes where Gumball and Darwin are attempting to get rid of Daisy are also really funny. Essentially, Anais is attempting to figure out exactly who was the perpetrator of Daisy going missing. There are certain scenarios that involve Gumball taking out the action, and others where it's Darwin. The cool thing about them is that both scenarios make sense with each character being the perpetrator. I can totally see Darwin eventually giving in and accepting fate. I can also see Gumball losing an argument to Darwin's logic and reluctantly agreeing.
What are you doing? I say we run.
If we run, we're goners, Darwin!
But who's to say the police will take us down?
Sorry, that one wasn't a metaphor. I literally can't run. I'd croak 30 meters from the house.
Anais eventually comes to the conclusion that Darwin chose to run away from the situation. Take note of this plastic bag, as it will be very important later, despite how insignificant it may seem now. One issue I have with the character design in the episode is that sometimes Gumball and Darwin go from looking coked out of their minds to normal looking between shots. It's not a huge problem, but it's definitely something I noticed. The trail inevitably goes cold for Anais, and she decides to take a break from the case. The episode takes a really somber turn in its presentation. The visuals really did impress me though. It's moments like these that I'll often show to fans to showcase the series' artistic merit. It also points back to my point from before about how different this episode feels from others. If I could compare this episode to any other episode from another series, it would probably be like Dumped from SpongeBob. It's so somber and sad that it doesn't feel right. It still maintains its charm, but I wouldn't think of this episode first whenever someone asked me for an episode that really describes the show in general.
Her chances were dripping away, minute by minute, like milk from a bottle.
Keep it coming, Rich.
Anais goes to confront Darwin as he is disposing of something, which leads to a confrontation scene with a few good jokes here and there. Darwin confesses that when he and Gumball were high off of what could only be described as cocaine in the form of cereal, they ripped Daisy apart. Darwin wanted to confess, but Gumball wouldn't let him, and he leads her towards the cellar, where the episode appears to reach its climax, but it actually turns out to be an anti-climax. The lighting here is phenomenal. It really does feel like the final scene in a cop show where they're about to catch the criminal. They do a really good job of building actual suspense. I genuinely was eager to see what happened next. The music build-up in the background was also a nice touch.
I didn't do nothing! It wasn't my fault!
Then why are you digging a hole?
I was gonna go underground!
That's not what that means!
I realize that now!
What?
I didn't know we could save her. And I didn't know. I swear.
Plot twist, it was actually Darwin who was behind everything, disposing of Daisy, the execution, and it was actually Gumball who ran away. This was a fantastic twist, and one that plays on our perception of these characters. I'm sure most of you would have thought, based on not only what the episode has shown us so far, but also what we know about these characters, that it was Gumball who was behind everything, and I did too rewatching this episode. It also made great use of foreshadowing. Remember when I told you that the trash bag was going to be very important? The episode actually used it as sort of a bait and switch, where in Anais' version, Darwin used the trash bag to go on the run, when in actuality, it was Gumball who did that. The actual reason why Darwin would go on to use the trash bag was to dispose of Daisy. The twist works extremely well, and it's the highlight of the episode for me. Everything about it was just so well executed. However, there is one fault that I have to give to the episode here. So if Darwin didn't know that they could save Daisy, but Anais told him this, why wouldn't he just tell her that Daisy was in the trash? Especially since Darwin was the one who wanted to come clean, it seems like that would have been the most logical approach for him. It's not a massive problem, but it gives this part of the episode a sense of contrivance. It was written in a way where it had to work despite what common sense should dictate happens here. Anais goes off in the hunt for Daisy before the garbage truck disposes of her. Once again, the visuals and Anais' commentary were on point here, and it really feels like the writers took their time with these lines. The final few scenes are essentially more of the same, after they rescue Daisy. It's a good enough conclusion, although it's not much to write home about.
I found sleep again. I guess this story wasn't as dark as I made it out to be.
The over-dramatized nature of the episode, despite what the actual severity of the situation was, is what makes this episode really different from all the other episodes that use this trope. While other shows would try and make something super serious and dark, this episode does that while still maintaining its charm. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of good detective episodes that aren't like this one, but it's just that this one seems the most grounded in its reality. Or maybe it's just my Gumball bias, I don't know. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review, have a good day, and take care.